Hello everyone, welcome to the orbit of the coding. So today I am going to show you Web API versioning in ASP.NET Core. So this is a very important topic while you're working on the Web API. So you can be with me next 2 minutes and I will show you what is API versioning and why we are using API versioning and what the exact need of API versioning. So I am going to the next slide and will explain you what is API versioning. So implementing the new feature without impacting the existing consumer, we can solve the problem by API versioning. Suppose you are starting and business and the business are grow and expand and after sometimes new requirements should be arise, right? And due to this we need to provide more functionality to the existing API. However, existing API can consume by many clients. So how to implement the new feature without impacting the existing compute consumer? So we can solve this problem by API versioning. So if I explain in the simple word, so you have a existing project, you are already implementing the multiple API and the existing API use uh, already consume a multiple clients, right? And after going forward, you need to introduce a new feature. So you want to uh, add the new feature without impacting the existing client. So so resolve this problem. We introduce API versioning. So we have a different way to implementing a web API versioning. We can implement through query strings, we can implement through URL and HTTP header. There are other way as well, that is accept header and content type, but we are not covering on this video. So we are just going to explain query string type, implementation, URL and HTTP header. So let's quickly go to the Visual Studio and I will show you. Here I am in the Visual Studio and you can see that I already create a project API versioning examples in the web API. Due to saving a lot of times, that's why I already create. But if you want to create a API versioning, then go to the Visual Studio, right? It's loading. It will take some time. In the create project, it's loading and go to the ASP.NET Core web application. After that, put the new name and then API controller section will coming. Then you need to select that API controller section and click on next. So once you click on next, that similar kind of project, once again, so that similar kind of project interface should come on your system, right? So we have a controller. So values controller already by default is created whenever you create API. So in the value control, I create one of models, uh, product details model, right, showing some data on this, and we have some property, product ID, name, description is valid, right? And so use this class in the value controller. So here you can see that I just internally assign, we create a list, internally assign a three value in it, right? Sorry guys, I receive a one off call. So let's explain again. So here you can say that I already create a product details and added three records in it. And now I'm going to execute the particular value controller API. and let's see the result. It will take few seconds. Now here you can see, uh, and Mozilla Firefox also get a good layout showing the API. So here you can see that we have a JSON, arrow data, headers. You can see all the things in the Mozilla Firefox. We have option save, collapse, different kind of action they provided. So now you can see that we have three records, right? In the header section, you can see that API supported version 1.0, content type, server is the Kestrel, and accept header and different kind of informations are there inside the it. So now uh, how API version, so currently I'm implementing the API supported version, that's why it's showing the 1.0 version. So once I remove the code, you if you not implementing the API versioning, then you are not able to see the version over it. So I just undo my code and let's again uh, build that particular applications, right? And then later on I will explain how to write the particular codes and what is the use of that particular codes, right? So so these line of codes that responsible for the showing the API version, and just I am going to come on comment that particular codes and I will show you again. It will take few seconds. Now you can see that in the header section API versioning is not showing because previously it's showing because I implemented the API versioning code, that's why it's showing. So once you create a normally API application, versioning is not showing in your application. We need to explicitly implement that versioning in the API. At that time you are able to see the what the exactly API version are using. You can get the several kestrels. In the next session video, I will explain what is the kestrel server, right? So, so I can we can use a postman to the like API calling get post put. So now I'm going to explore more about Postman. So I'm going to open the Postman instead of using a Mozilla Firefox. It's very handy to using Postman, right? So open a Postman. It will take few seconds more. So now going to the my workspace. So I have already created orbit of the coding workspace. So I'm going to the workspace. If you need to know about how Postman is work, then we can not don't worry about that if you don't know about the Postman. So in some upcoming video I will explain the exactly what is Postman and how to use it, but currently you can just see. I'm going to create a new API so we can you can see that I put the name API versioning, right? No, we don't need to use that. Just we can search the URL and use that particular things. Don't we need to drive many things, right? It will take few seconds. So now I just put the URL. You can see that while fetching the link, we get some error. Don't know what happening. So I can select HTTP request. Now this is the get methods. Here you can see that now you can able to see that like it's hit that URL HTTP method is get, and now able to see the data inside that value controller product ID, one headphones, that is all are comings, and you can see the cookies no cookie here headers. You can also see the header that you are showing on the Mozilla Fireworks earlier. So here you can see the server is Kestrel, transfer encoding is chunked, content type is this, and we can use ASP.NET. So here you can see that, right? So now I am going to explain how to implement versioning in the current web API, right? So if you need to implement versioning, then first of all you need to uh, install the Nugget package, which is mbc.net versioning package. So you can how to add a Nugget package extension. You can go to the tools, and then next go to the Nugget package manager, and then click on manage Nugget package solutions. So if you don't, I already install the Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC.versioning. So if you don't install, then you can just click on browse, put here the name versioning, and once you get and click on that particular things and download the correct versioning. So based on your API or Visual Studio, you need to select your web API versioning. So if you download the latest API versioning that is not compatible to your system, then you can get the error. So based on your compatibility, you need to select that particular version and download it simultaneously, right? So I already add the API versioning. Once you add the MVC versioning, then you need to register that versioning service in the startup.cs class in method configure service method, right? I already write the code, so you need to register that particular service. If you are aware about .NET Core, so once you declare any service, you need to register on the configure service, right? So what? So I have registered the API versioning here, and we can assign a default API here, and we put the assume default version when unspecified true, and we put the X reporting API version true, right? So once we uh, add the services API versioning, then once you launch that particular application, then you are able to see the versioning. I already explained a bit time ago, showing in the first launching the applications. So now I'm going to launch it again, right? I just build the applications and see. Here you can see that API support version 1.0. So one of the benefits, you can see that using the Postman. So just I build that particular application. I don't need to launch the ISS application in the Mozilla Firefox. Just I build the application. And once I build and hit into the URL, and then you are able to see your changes reflected in the Postman, right? So API supported version 1.0 you are able to see. So now I am going to show you. So I am going to create a two version. So this is we can consider as the existing version. So how you can implement a version 1 version and different version. So we can consider this is the existing version 1.0. So I just create a product version v1 controller. And now if you need, this is the example of uh, query string versioning, right? So you need to put the attribute API versioning and assign the versions based on your requirement, on your system specific. You need to assign the version. Uh, so once you assign the version, then that version is reflected on your system, right? So so now I'm going to create some different version. I can consider this is the existing versions, right? Now I'm going to create a different API version. So just to open the API Solution Explorer, going to the add sections, now new items, and creating the API controller empty. And now I put the product version v2 controller. So on this here you can see that we got the compilation error because I put that symbol, so you need to change it here similarly, right? So now I'm going to add the attribute API versioning here, right? So here you can say that API version. So now I am going to assign 2.0, right? And create a one-off method public IXN get, right? And return OK object result. And here I'm going to pass the product version 2.0. How non-invoke OK object cannot be the method. Okay, no issue for that. So return OK object we can consider simply, right? I need to put the HTTP get methods over here, right? So how you need to add some, okay, change to why this is happening. I need to add one more time okay object response. Here you can see that okay, I need to put new because this is the class, right? Here you can see that this is, once I go to the metadata of that particular definition, now you can able to see that this is the class okay object result. And we have uh, uh, we can get the response to the okay object result based on the result. Once you put anything in the object value, then you return that body section in your application, right? So now I'm just build that particular application, right? Now I'm to show you. Here you can see that the API version is still 1.0. Now I'm going to call the our version product v1. Here you can see that 1.0 going to call v2. You can see that API version 2.0. I hope you get it. So now once we create product version v2, then you can see that they supported the API version 2.0. So this is the query strings. If you want to explain the URL versioning, what the URL versioning, you just need to change the routing of that path in the basis of URL versioning. So just put that v and assign it to the API versioning, and then you can build that particular applications. So you need to put uh, the API version in the URL. So this is also very useful. Mainly developers use that URL API versioning as well. So I build that particular application. So once I click, you can see that not found, because it's not found because I changed the URL. So now I'm going to 2.0 slash, still not found. So the so you need to put that specific URL, right? You need to, okay, you need to check that particular URL besides on it. So I'm just going to put that API controller. So video is going too long. So just I'm going to wrap up these things. Right here you can say that I put the v2 and build that particular application. Still not found. In the next session, I will explain the URL API versioning, but just you need to change that the URL, routing the URL. Once you route that particular things, then you are able to see that API, and you are your version 2.0 and your controller name. And once you hit that particular things, then you get the product version 2.0. So that's not very easy things. So you need to modify some of codes. Already we have uh, a lot of strength. 22 minutes video are already there. So I will explain on the next video. So thank you, that's all. If you have any query, please put in the comment box and explain you, and I will try to resolve that particular things. So happy learning, happy coding.